Hi, it's Tash. Welcome to Tash's Library. Today's video is going to be my April wrap-up, where I talk about the books that I read in April, whether I completed my TBR or not, and what I thought of them all. From this month, I will also be giving you an idea as to whether each book might fulfill a prompt in the R Fantasy bingo board. So if you are doing that and looking for some recommendations, I will give you some ideas. So the first book I read in April was Garlic and the Witch by Brie Paulson. And this is a pretty short little graphic novel that's sort of a companion book to Garlic and the Vampire, which was adorable. And in this one, Garlic visits a magic market to buy some ingredients. This is just such adorable artwork, super lovable characters. It explores themes of courage and facing adversity and change, friendship. It's just so sweet and cozy, a really quick, optimistic read. The only thing that I think brought it down to 4 stars for me is I'm not a lover of graphic novels in general, and I wanted more of an ending. But I would highly, highly recommend these to anyone looking for a cozy graphic novel with beautiful artwork. And if you're doing bingo, it fits the cozy SFF square. I then read Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. And this was for the prompt to quantifier in the title. And I gave this 4 stars. This is the first novella in the Wayward Children series, where we follow Nancy, who arrives at the home for wayward children that is run by Eleanor, who also used to be a wayward child herself. And Nancy has to come into terms with her new reality and an ominous threat to the home. I really enjoyed the quirky, very interesting characters. This book is quite creepy and very atmospherically written. It explores themes of belonging, loss, and grief. And it's just really unique. I really, really enjoyed this. The only thing I felt it needed was a bit more depth to the development of Nancy's character. I felt that I didn't really get to know her very much. But highly recommended to anyone looking for an atmospheric, unique read. I then read a book that was not on a TBR. This was The Elements of Marie Curie, How the Glow of Radium Lit a Path for Women in Science by Dava Sobel. And I gave this 5 stars. It was superbly good. This is a part biography of Marie Curie, part explanation of her discoveries, and part the story of other women in science who worked at her lab and crossed paths with her at some time. The writing style is incredibly absorbing, lending itself to binge reading. I read this very, very quickly. Has a nice mix of biography and science without too many unnecessary biographical details. That works for me because I'm not a massive fan of biographies. It has excellent scientific explanations. I enjoyed the interaction with other notable scientists such as Rutherford and Einstein. And I loved how Sobel highlighted the barriers to women working in science at the time and how these were improved and overcome with the help of their male colleagues. There's nothing I disliked about this book, but I would make a note that it's probably not going to be your thing if you enjoy detailed biographies and you're not looking for a lot of science in it. So I'd recommend this to lovers of the history of the discovery of elements and those looking for an interesting read about women in science with scientific elements integrated. I then read The Cat Who Loved Books by Sasuke Natsukawa, and this was for a color wheel prompt where I picked brown. And it also fulfilled the buzzwordathon title for animal in the title. This follows Rintaro, who becomes proprietor of Natsuki Books after the death of his grandfather. He is a hikikomori, which is someone with severe social withdrawal and is struggling with grief as well. He is then approached by Tiger, a cat, who asks for his help because there are books to be saved. This has a superb exploration of grief and how to find meaning in one's life. It explores friendship and social connection, the importance of living life, and the joy of reading. I enjoyed the wise cat character, Tiger, and it was written in a very sort of fable-like way. However, the morality explored in this is very simplistic and idealistic, which is cool because it's a cozy book in the end. The quests are also devoid of risk or challenge, possibly for the same reason, and are purely devices for exploring ideas. I also wanted more time with Tiger, so I ended up giving this 4 stars, and I would recommend this to those looking for a relaxing and cozy read. And if you're doing bingo, it would fit the cozy SFF square. I then went on to The Tropic of Serpents by Marie Brennan, which is the second book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. This was for the bookworm game prompt in the zoo. And we continue following Isabella, who visits the tropical region of Eriga to study dragons. And once again, just like the first book, there's contention with human politics, perilous conditions. This is such a really good adventure story for a strong protagonist, great supporting characters, atmospheric descriptions. I love the use of the African animals coexisting with dragons, such as like the savannah snakes and Moorish swamp worm. It explores themes of social norms, independence, intellectual curiosity, and cultural differences. For me, I gave this 4 stars because I preferred it to the first book. Actually, I've liked it a lot more, but I don't love the memoir format, and it is written as a memoir. I also felt that it had greater focus on the culture and politicking rather than on the dragons. I wanted more dragons. But I would recommend this to those looking for a cozy-ish read, and I say cozy-ish because it does have some dark moments, but anyone looking for epic adventure, politics, and social commentary all mushed together. And if you're doing bingo, this would fulfill quite a few squares. So it would be epistolary, and this would be hard mode. Also book in parts, hard mode, and Stranger in a Strange Land, but not for hard mode. I then read The Stardust Grail by Yume Katase, which was for the Goodreads winner or nominee prompt, and gave this 4 stars. Follows Maya Hashimoto, who used to be an artifact thief, but is now a graduate student studying comparative cultures. And she is asked to return to her old ways to find a mysterious alien relic that is vital to a number of people. I really enjoyed the alien species in this one. Uncle is one of my favorite characters in this book. Great supporting character. I also enjoy the other supporting characters, such as Medics, a medical robot who is absolutely adorable. The second half of this book is very action-ridden and has great heist and adventure elements. There is good world building where you have various atmospheric worlds explored. It explores cultural heritage as well, colonization, and cultural differences. For me, what brought this down was the language is very colloquial and conversational, which made it feel a bit YA to me at the beginning. And I like my science fiction more hardcore. I don't enjoy the colloquial conversation style hard science fiction. I like that vintage science fiction or the old language. So I think this is possibly a me thing. The main character's constantly trying to be sassy. Didn't work for me. I didn't find it particularly funny, and I found it a little bit grating. The book is also a little bit slow at the beginning, and the revelations and twists as they come up didn't really hit emotionally for me. However, I would recommend this to anyone looking for modern science fiction adventure. And if you're doing bingo, it's a book in parts. It's got 4 parts, so it hits hard mode. I then read Adrian Tchaikovsky's Alien Clay, which was for the prompt, a book published last year. And this follows Professor Artan Dagdev, who is exiled to Kiln, which is an extrasolar labor camp, about 30 odd years from Earth. as punishment for his political activism and attitudes to the orthodoxy concerning human evolution. And he finds he has to survive in this soul-crushing regime of the camp, as well as managing a very dangerous, poorly understood ecosystem. This is a captivating story of exile with a very unique and menacing ecology. There's a constant sense of tension and peril. It explores themes of free speech, conformity, adaptation, freedom, and survival. But what I disliked about this book was the first person present tense. It made it feel a little like a monologue, very conversational yet dense, and just didn't work for me as a plot reader. I got really sick of being stuck in this one character's thoughts. I also don't love books dealing with rebellions and political activism, so it probably wasn't the book for me. However, I would recommend this to those who do enjoy tales of rebellion and first-person narratives. If you're doing bingo, it would fit for down with the system, but I don't think it would hit hard mode. I then had the prompt a wintry cover, and I was supposed to read Two Twisted Crowns, which is the sequel to One Dark Window. But I realized I don't actually own that book yet, and I couldn't access it easily. And I didn't love the first book. It was only 3 stars for me. So until I can find it very cheap in the wild or at a library, I'm probably just going to put that series on hold for now. And I replaced the book for this prompt with The Legacy by R.A. Salvatore, which is a continuation of The Legend of Drizzt. Also has a wintry cover. And this is one of my favorite series. It's just a cozy feel-good series for me. It follows a dark elf who finds himself at odds with the morality of his homeland. This is the 7th book. Just like all the other books, there are epic battle scenes. We have a return of some great characters, so dwarves, orcs, etc. There's also a great companion animal, Guinevere, who is a black panther. And there is a great setting in this one. There's sort of like an underground setting. Salvatore's narrative style is binge-worthy. He creates really likable, fun characters and also explores some really deep themes such as revenge, loyalty, friendship. I love Salvatore's writing. It is very, very philosophical. This book was darker than the other 6 I have read so far, and the ending was a little bit unexpected, and I'm a little uncertain whether I enjoyed that or not. I would recommend this entire series, in fact, to any lovers of traditional fantasy. And if you're doing bingo, this is hard mode for elves and dwarves because our main protagonist is a dark elf. I then went on to The House at the Edge of Magic by Amy Sparks, which was the prompt magic in the title. And I gave this 3 stars. This is the first book in the House at the Edge of Magic middle grade series. Follows 9, an orphan pickpocket who comes across a strange magical house that seems to defy all physical laws. And its occupants are adorable. There's Flabbergast the wizard, Eric the troll, and there's Dr. Spoon, an alchemist. And they ask for a help to break a curse. I really enjoyed this magical house that's constantly changing and is physically impossible. 9 also is a very capable and likable character despite her age. The other characters are fun and funny. It is a very humorous book. It's got things like a cursed tea cabinet. I quite enjoyed the humor in this, but it did feel a little young for me. And I think this is one of those middle grade books that are really for the younger ages. I also felt that it was a bit rushed, and I wanted to explore the house more, but I'm suspecting that we will explore the house more in the sequels. I'm not sure I'm going to continue this series because, as I said, I would recommend this to younger readers who are looking for a fun magical read. And if you're doing bingo, it would fit hard mode for impossible places. I then read The City and the Stars by Arthur C. Clarke for the prompt A Building on the Cover, and gave this 4 stars. In Earth's far future, there's one city left called Diaspar, and it is humanity's last protection against the desert world that has been ravaged by climate change, and where natural reproduction is a thing of the past, and most nature is a thing of the past as well. And Elvin, our main protagonist, is the first person to have been born on Earth in 10 million years. Everyone else is sort of recycled into bodies periodically. Elvin is drawn by a desire to explore the outside world, which is actually taboo. And he's pretty much the only person on Earth who has any desire to see what's beyond the city. This is a fascinating premise. Elvin is incredibly well characterized in a very intricately developed world. This is a fabulous imagining of a far future, very thought-provoking, and it's got some great supporting characters as well. The book explores themes such as being an outsider, non-conformity, yearning for more, curiosity, courage, and the clash between the natural and the artificial. For me, this wasn't 5 stars like some of the other Clarks I've read, but because it's more character focused than plot focused. And what I love about Clark is how plot focused he usually is. Now, I know that this is not the case for most readers. Most readers want the character focus. So if that's the case, you're going to really love this. And I would recommend this to lovers of vintage science fiction who are looking for a more character focused read. The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman was for the prompt a dark cover, and also fulfilled the Buzzwordathon cover prompt, which was animal on the cover. This is the 3rd book in his Dark Materials trilogy, and it continues the story of Lyra, an orphan who stumbles across a conspiracy that takes her to the Arctic North. I love some of the supporting characters in this. I really enjoyed Will, and there's a polar bear. It's got a great steampunk vibe with zeppelins and gyroscopes. It integrates quantum physics really beautifully into the story as well. The story has really high stakes, and it explores the themes of coming of age, anti-authoritarianism, free will, love, courage. It has angels and demons, where everyone has their own demon, and I particularly loved Pantaleimon, who is like a fairy thing, very, very adorable. There are witches and ghosts and harpies, and this is the ultimate good versus evil story. However, I gave this 3 stars. It was the worst of the trilogy in my opinion. The first book was a 5-star, second book was a 4-star, the third book was a 3-star. I just found that the ending was a little too clean and simplistic. It also felt very long in places, just too much detail that was unnecessary in my mind, and some chapters didn't really contribute to the plot, I felt, and was just really disappointing compared to the first book. However, I still would recommend this series, particularly those who are looking for a darker version of Narnia. I then read Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, which was for the prompt a negative word in the title. This is the final book in the Letters of Enchantment duology, which picks up 2 weeks after the first book ended. This duology follows Iris and Roman, who are journalists who are reporting on a war between gods. This second book does have further development of supporting characters. Once again, Rebecca Ross's writing is lyrical. She creates fabulous characters and gives us a really satisfying ending. However, some of the pacing of the book was a bit strange. I felt that it was a bit slow at the beginning and quite rushed at the end. And the characters made some irrational decisions at the end that weren't really consistent with their personalities. They weren't consistent with how they'd behaved previously. So I almost felt like it was just a way of making the plot fit. I also wanted more world building, and particularly an exploration of an organization that's mentioned in the second book. So I gave this 4 stars, whereas the first book was way better. I gave that one 5 stars. But I would definitely recommend this to anyone looking for a beautifully written fantasy with romance in it. And also if you're doing bingo, it's a book in 4 parts. So it would fulfill hard mode. It's also last in a series, as was the Amber Spyglass. So they would fulfill the last in the series prompts, although not hard mode. The final book I read in April was not part of my TBR and was The Elders by Imberly Isles, which is the second book in the Foxcraft children's series. This follows Isla, who's a young fox who is in search of her family after an attack of strange foxes on their den. And she needs to navigate the Greylands, which is the city, and the wildlands with the help of other foxes and animals. This has such endearing fox characters. There's also really imaginative use of words to describe human words, because obviously foxes wouldn't know them. So for example, cars are called manglers and roads are called deathways and the humans are called furless. Has really cute integration of fox behaviors and some really tense and emotional moments as well, despite it being for younger readers. It's a great journey story exploring coming of age and trust. Now, this is a very simple book with very little plot, particularly in the second one, so it kind of felt like a second book, but it's just so beautifully contrived, like that I did give it 4 stars, and I would so recommend this series to young readers who love animals, especially foxes. So basically, I completed my April TBR and still managed to throw 2 extra books on there. I had 3 short stories to read in April, and I did indeed read those. The first one was Schwarzschild Radius by Connie Willis, where the German trenches in Russia are juxtaposed with event horizon theory, and this posits that psychologically war is akin to a black hole. I gave this 5 stars for the ideas and 4 for enjoyments. Gift from the Culture by Ian M. Banks follows a culture expatriate with a gambling debt who's coerced into a violent act. For ideas, I gave this 2. I didn't feel they were particularly deep, but the enjoyment was 4 stars. I really enjoyed reading this. And finally, we had Death is Static, Death is Movement by Misha Noga. This is a very dark, disturbing, dystopian cyberpunk story in which artists struggle to survive against neo-Nazis and phantasmagoric creatures. I gave this 3 for ideas and 2 for enjoyment. I felt that there was quite a lot to it, but I didn't love the process of reading it. And that's it. That was my April reading. I had a really fun month, and so far this year, I am very successfully completing my TBRs. Hopefully it continues. Thank you for watching, and until I see you next time, take care.